Hello friends, welcome to my channel Kumar Programming. Today we are going to learn about Angular standalone web component. Yes, Angular standalone web component in a single JavaScript file that can be reused in any other applications. Okay, so now the question will be coming on your mind, why we are using web component? What is the use of web component? Normally we are using the component, right? But so what is the need of web component? So basically web component separate your components from the rest of the application by giving them their own DOM and functionality. So whatever the component you are using, that is in your application only, but that cannot be used to any other application, right? But web component is just a single file, JavaScript file, that can be used to any other applications irrespective of any dependency from your current application. Then what are the reason that we can use the web component? So first of all, it's easy to customize, okay, and standardize your styles. So it's very easy to customize, and if you want to provide style for that particular component, you can give, otherwise you can inherit the style from the parent application itself. Other thing is it support for all the modern browsers, and the most important thing is it's framework independent. So it doesn't matter in which framework you are using Angular, React, in which framework you are using, it doesn't matter, it's going to work for all the frameworks. Accessibility, the people who are disabled, I mean, like, they cannot listen, they cannot hear, it's support for that as well. The fifth one is encapsulation. Encapsulation, it's converting all the JavaScript file in a single file. Okay, so it's getting encapsulated all your CSS file, your JavaScript file in a single file, right? So that's why it's providing the feature of the encapsulation as well. Now I'm going to create this web component step by step. Okay, so in order to create this web component, I'll be creating a service to consume in the component, and then I'll create a component, and after that I'll consume that service inside that component, because most of the applications there, I mean, like, components are using the services. That's why I have given this example in order to use the service inside the component. And once component is ready, then after that we will migrate from component to web component. Okay, and once it's migrated to the web component, then we will convert into the single JavaScript reusable file by using the Node.js. Okay, once this reusable file is ready, we will use this web component to any other applications. Okay, so let's start without wasting much more time on this. Let's flip to the Visual Studio. So here I'm going to create application. Let's open the terminal, and inside Angular I'm just going to create application as ng new command, and then I'll give the application name. So here web component app. Okay, press enter. Now it's going to create a application name as a web component app. This could be taking some time. So now it's asking to create a routing. Here I'm not required routing, so I'll press N and enter. Now it's asking for the style, so let's go with the default behavior. So now it's creating the application and installing the packages. It will take some time. Meanwhile friends, if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it. And here I'm expecting that you guys are having basic knowledge about the Angular. If you are not having the basic knowledge, you can go to my videos for Angular from basic to advanced series. Press the bell icon so you will be able to get the notification for all of my upcoming videos. So friends, here my application is created and all the packages are being installed. If you see here, this all the packages which are being installed, and here we have the source folder. Now let me move inside this project. Okay, so open this folder with the terminal command ng generate service, and then we will give the service name. So here I am going to give the service name as get movies detail, okay, and which is going to be created inside the services folder. Okay, so now my service is getting created here. So my service is being created. Let's see that. So if you see here, services folder are created, and inside that we have services. Okay, this is a spec file, so we are not going to write any test case for now. We are just going to write the service here. Okay, so let's start with this. First of all, so here we will be requiring two things. Okay, one is the HTTP and one is the HTTP parameters. Okay, so what I will write here, I'll create a two parameter here, parent HTTP type of any, and then I'll create a parent params, okay, type of any. Okay, why I am creating? Because I have to pass the context, HTTP context, from parent application to child application in order to execute that HTTP get method. Okay, because this component is going to execute in the context of the parent application. Okay, so I'm not going to create a HTTP client here. I'm just using that HTTP client from parent application to this component. Okay, you'll be understanding once this will come into the picture. So let's do that. For now I'll be setting, so two things that we have to do. We have to set HTTP from parent application, and then we have to set the parameters from the parent application. So what I'm going to do here, set, I'm just going to create a two methods here. One is set HTTP, and that would be having a parameter of HTTP type of any, and then we would be having a, and what we can do here, this dot parent HTTP equal to, we are passing this HTTP parameters which we are getting from the outside. Okay, now the same thing we have to do, set params, parameters that we are passing. So here params type of any, this dot parent params. Okay, so this is what we are doing. We are passing HTTP and parameters from the parent application, okay, and which we are going to set into the component level. Okay, now we would be requiring a method to fetch the data. Okay, so here I am going to create a method as a get movies. Once we are passing this parameter, we need some we need to pass some parameter in our, search movie name, right? So here I'm just passing as an item, and that item here as type of any. Okay, and I can make it as a default variable, default parameter. Okay, now so this method is going to return the data from the movie API. Okay, so let me just write this, return this dot as parent HTTP. I'm considering parent HTTP because this HTTP context is coming from the parent application. Okay, so parent HTTP dot get, and here I'm passing the API. So here I'm passing the API. Okay, and here we need to pass the API key because API are having their own key. So here we have to pass the key. So let me just provide the key value to it. So here I'm going to have a API key. Okay, if you see here, this is the link which we are having for the API, and here we are passing the search, which is I'm passing as an item. Here let me just put it as a title, because we are going to pass a movie title. Okay, and here, so here we are having the S parameter as a title, then we have API key is coming from here, and then we are passing up parameters. Okay, and what parameter that we are passing here, we are defining the into the parent parameters set as a search parameter, and search parameter is going to be as a title, which we are getting from here. Okay, and this is, so this is a get API, so it's going to return an observable. Okay, so here we are going to return an observable. Okay, type of, let's define as any. Okay, and if you see here, this observable is type of any, so automatically it's going to be imported that observable from RxJS library. Okay, so now this service is almost ready. Now we are going to use this service into the component. Okay, so we are going to create a component now. Press Ctrl J, come to the terminal. In order to generate component, we have to write command ng generate component, and then we have to give the component name. Okay, so here I'm going to give a component name as a search movie. Okay, so this search movie component is going to search the movie data. Okay, so let's enter. Now it's going to create the component as a search movie. So here my component has been created. Now this component should be having a parameter from the parent application. Okay, so we are going to have as a config parameter over here, config as a type of any. Okay, and this config is coming as an input parameter, so we have to decorate as a input. Okay, input directive. Okay, so this directive is not here, so we can just quick fix it, Control 1, and it should be coming from the Angular core. Okay, so now we would be having this variable as a input parameter from parent component, I mean like parent application. Okay, now we have to inject our services. We have a service as a get movie details. Okay, so in the constructor, what we have to write is, we are going to use as a inject, and inside the inject we are going to pass our service, and service is get movie detail service. Okay, so now we are passing this get movie details service, and then we will create a variable as a private and movie service. Okay, and that would be the type of get movie detail service. So here inject is not part of this. Oh sorry, this could be the capital inject, and that could be loaded from Angular core, right? So now we have injected our service here. Okay, now let's move this input parameter on top of the constructor, and then we have to use this config value, okay, in order to use our services. Okay, so now because this config is coming from the parent application, so we can get this config value inside our onChange hook. Okay, on changes, so this is not going to be, cannot find the field name. Okay, so now it's coming from the on changes from the Angular core. This hooks, all the hooks are coming from the Angular core. Now it is showing as a this incorrect implementation of interface on change, right? Because we have not inherited method of ng on change. Okay, now let's create the ng on changes hook. Okay, ng on changes, this ng on changes hooks have a parameter as a changes, and that could be the type of simple changes. Okay, and this simple changes is going to come from our Angular core. Okay, and this is going to return a void. Okay, so this is our ng on change hook. Now on this ng on change hook, we are going to get the value from the configuration. Okay, so now let me just have it a console dot log, and we can get to know what are the changes we have value inside that. Okay, so now here just log the value of ng on changes. Now in these changes, you remember we are passing two values, right? HTTP instances and HTTP parameter from the parent application. So let's set both of the values to our service. Okay, so this dot movie service dot, you remember we have created two methods over there, right? Set HTTP and set param. Okay, so set HTTP, double P is there. Okay, so it's fine. Let's create a, and now set HTTP, and what exactly we are going to set over here is from the changes, and change in the changes which we have is the config, right? So this is the way that we have to get the value config, and after that we are getting the current value dot HTTP instances. Okay, this HTTP instances that we are passing it from parent application. Okay, so I'm just considering I'll pass this HTTP instance from parent. Now the same thing we are going to do for the so here we have a method as a set params, right? And here we have to be passed variable as a, we can have is a HTTP params, and just remember we have to pass these two names only, HTTP instance and HTTP params. Okay, now here we have a 2p, let's correct this in. Okay, so we have to just set HTTP. Okay, and now let's set HTTP in the, okay, so now it's corrected. Okay, so if you see here, we are passing set HTTP to the our service HTTP instance from the parent application, and here we are passing parameters from parent application to the service. Okay, now we have to call the service. Okay, so let me just write a method here, get movies detail. This would be having a parameter as a title, that could be type of string, and it would be returning void. Okay, now we have to call the service method. Okay, so we have service this dot movie services dot get movie details. Okay, and this movie details, this is going to take the title which we are getting from the parent application. Okay, now this title dot, and this is a observable, so we have to subscribe this. Okay, subscribe. Okay, and inside that we would be getting the response, right? So we have to write response and fat arrow function here. Now we are getting the value inside the response. So what we can do here, just log the value, movie data as response. Okay, so let's check if this our component is working, component and service is working or not. I'm seeing here this inject is coming from Angular core testing. That's not correct, so we have to remove this because already inject is there and which is coming from the Angular core. Okay, so just to test this component, if everything is working, our services and our component is working fine, so let's use this component inside the app component.html. So by default a lot of things are there. Let me remove all the things and let me just use this search movie, app search movie component, and here we are passing a config data to the component, right? So app component, this is the parent component which we have, and this is the child component, and once we pass the parent component data to the child component, so we are passing the data as a config. Okay, config equal to config. Okay, and this config is going to come from the CS part. Okay, now we will configure this config over here. Okay, so this is our app component.ts considering as a parent component here. Okay, let's define the value of config. Okay, config, and I'm going to have a type of any, and let's have object value inside this, and we have two value. As if you remember that we have put as a value as http instances and http params, right? http instances, as of now I can pass as a null, and the other value is params, and I can just pass as a null. Okay, so this is my config parameter. Now I have to set this config parameter as well, right? So let's go to the its constructor, okay, inside the constructor we have to inject the service. Okay, which service? HTTP client service. Okay, because this is the parent, right? And this HTTP client service is having their own context which is going to executed inside the our search movie component. Okay, so here I'm going to, so here in the constructor we have to inject our HTTP service. Okay, so HTTP client, and then private HTTP type of HTTP client. Okay, now we are going to set our config from this. So this HTTP client we have to pass in our HTTP instances. Okay, so this dot config dot HTTP instances, right? HTTP instances. Oh yeah, my seems like my intelligence is not working properly. Okay, so here I have passed this HTTP. Okay, now this .config we have to pass our parameters as well, right? Dot HTTP params equal to, we have parm params. Okay, so we have to define these params as well. Params const, because this is going to be constant, so I'm just putting as a const new HTTP params. Params is parameter, and inside this we are going to pass the object. So in order to just have save my time, I'm putting the value for the form object here. So this is going to be constant. So now we have the parameters here as well, and this HTTP client is going to pass to the, and this config is going to set at the component level, and from this config it's going to pass to the service. Okay, so we are going to execute in the same HTTP context from parent component to child component. Okay, and whenever I'm using this HTTP client, I need to import that HTTP module as well. Okay, so let's go to the app module. Here HTTP client module. Okay, so it's going to be imported as a HTTP client module. Now this is ready, and here we have passed the config, and here inside the services we are having the service. Now in the service component we have already passed these HTTP parameters, and we are passing this title. Okay, now let me just test it if it is working it fine, we are getting the data from the services or not. Okay, so we have to come our app component. So let's come to our component, search movie component. Now this is the get movie detail. Let me call it here on ng on changes, this dot get movie details, and here we can pass the title as spider. Okay, as of now we are just going to give as a just as a static value, but once we will create our component, then after that we will pass these things dynamically. Okay, now let's see how it is working. G serve -o, ngs is used to ng serve, and -o is going to use to open in the browser. Okay, let's see. So now it's building the application, and meanwhile if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it, and don't forget to press the bell icon, so you will be getting the notification for all of my upcoming videos. Okay, so search movie is working. Let me open the developer tools here. In the console, yep, great, we are getting the movie details related to the spider. Okay, so see here all the details we are getting as a spider. So great, we are getting the data from the service and it's getting loaded here. Okay, now we have to bind this data. Okay, now let's create the HTML for this component. So here I'm going to take as a form. Inside the form I'm going to have a div, and that would be a form group.
I can give as a name as a form group here, because I'm going to use the reactive form here, so I'm just putting as a form group. Form group. Uh-oh, it's already there, right? So form group, okay. And I'm going to give this a form group name as a movie form, okay. And I'll declare this movie form to my ts file later. Let's go ahead with the create a container. And inside the container, let me create a row. And in this row, so in this container, let me create one more row here. And now in this row we have to put a search box, okay. So here I'm just going to take a column here, column, and inside the column we are going to put as a label, okay. Label which is going to have the value as title, okay. And then after that we are going to have element input type, and that would be the type of text. This is building continuously, let me stop it, okay. Control J to just hide this. Let me give some ID here. This is text, so I'm just putting as a prefix text. Movie title, and then I have to give as a form control name. So here I'm putting as a form control name, and this form control name I can give as a title, okay. Now I mean, like here this is the text box where we are going to put the title, so we have to fire an event also, okay, for this. So let me just call a key up event for this, and here we can call a method as search movie, okay. And this search movie we can pass as a event, okay. Now two things are there, we have to declare this form group and we have to create this method, okay. Now in the row section, let me bind the values, okay, of the data which we are getting from the movie services, right. So in order to display all the values from the movie data, here let me take a div of class card, and this is going to be repeated, right. So because we have multiple movies details, right, so what we have to do here, star ng for, and here we will let movie of movie data. So we have to declare this movie data as well, okay. Now okay, let me first declare all these things, this form and this search movie method and this movie data, okay. Let's go to TypeScript file. So here we have to declare our form group. So form group is movie form. So here movie form type of any, and we have a movie data. So let's declare movie data type of any, and we have a method search movie. So let's create a method over here, search movie, which is having event. Let me just type as a any, and here this movie form needs to be initialized with this dot form builder. So we don't have form builder as of now, so let's add form builder service here. Inject form builder private in order to access inside this component. Private form builder, and now we can use here form builder dot group. Now we are using the component here as a title. So this is the control title here. Let me pass the initial value as a blank. Okay, still it's showing error movie form. Okay, can't bind to form group since it is not a known property of div. Okay, why it is coming? Because of in app module we have not added our forms module and react, because we are using the reactive form, so we should use the reactive forms module as well. Okay, so here we are going to add forms module, as well as we have to use our reactive forms module. And we are using, if you see here in the app component, we are using the HTTP client, right? So we have to use our HTTP client module as well, client module. Okay, so let's see that. Okay, so now if you see here, error has gone and everything looks good. In the component file also everything looks good. Now we have to bind this movie data here, right? So let's bind this value. I have using here a card. Let me do dot card body, and inside this card body let me take as a header. Let me just take as a h5, and I'll be putting the value of the header here, and I can mention it as a class equal to title. Okay, card title. Now the second thing is we are going to bind the other value. So let's see what all the fields are there. So accordingly we will bind it here. So this application is already running here. Okay, so it's fine. It accepted that error is coming. Here we have search. Inside the search we are having the title. Let me just copy this value somewhere. So here we have a poster, that is the link of the image file, and then we have title, and then we have type, and then we have year, and then we have with this IMDb ID. Okay, so let's bind all these values here. So in the title we are going to bind this title and this movie dot title. Okay, and then we have to bind the other values as well. Let me just take a paragraph, card text. So this could be year, and we can pass the value of the year as well here. So this would be movie dot year, and this could be IMDb ID. IMDb ID. This would be, let's see that what was the value of IMDb ID. This IMDb ID, right? So here we will put that IMDb ID. Now we have to give the now we have to show the poster as well. Okay, so in order to show the poster, let me just go top of the card body, and here we will just take as a image. And top. Okay, and here we will provide that link for the link for source. Okay, so we are binding with the attribute here, so we have to just provide movie dot what was that, poster. Okay, so movie dot poster. Now let me just try to see how it looks. Okay, so this is ng for domain support editable for this array. Okay, so let's see the what is the value we are getting here. Data dot search. Okay, so inside we are getting the response in the all the data are coming inside the search. Okay, so what we will do here in our component, and we will pass that response dot search. Okay, now save it, let's run it once again. Yep, good. So now here we are able to see that all the posters, good. And now we need to see the, okay, we are not able to see here ID, year, so seems like something wrong there. Let's check. Okay, so here the mistake is that the banana binding, which we are missing one curly bracket here. Yep, so yep, it should be good now. So see, here we are having the title, here we are having the year, and here we are having the IMDb ID, right? Great. So this is working. So here this poster size looks very big, so let me add a style over here to make it small. and we will put as a width, let's give 200 pixel, and we will give as a height as a 200 250 pixel. Let's see how it looks like now. Yep, it's far better, but we can make it a bit more smaller. It could be 150 and height could be around 180. That would be better, I believe. Yep, we can width, we can put it as a 140, 130. Yep, now it looks better. Okay, so now if you see this text box is getting merged and this label belongs to this for and this text movie title, and I'm just going to put all these things inside a div line. Okay, let's see. Okay, here these all the classes are related to the bootstrap. Okay, but here I'm not using the bootstrap because the design and styles is going to take it from the parent component. In the parent application, whatever the classes we will use, it's going to be implemented over here as well. So in the parent application we will use the bootstrap. Okay, now if you see these values, we are passing it as a static value. Okay, now we have to pass this as a dynamic value from the text box control. Now let's have this value from the text box dynamically. Okay, so this I'm going to call it here, and here I'll just put as a const title equal to event dot target value, and we are going to search, I mean, like after the length of title is greater than 3 characters. Okay, so here we will give a condition. Okay, so here we are going to check as a title dot length is greater than 3, then we are going to call this method and we are passing the value as a title. Okay, and this search movie event is going to call on the key up event of the text box. Okay, now let's see. So here we will pass some iron, so it's going to search for the iron man, right? So other thing, so here see I have removed that, but this record is not going to be clear, right? So we have to make it clear as well. Else if is greater than 3, then it's okay. Else we will pass this movie data as a blank. Okay, this data movie equal to blank. Great, now let's see. Oh, still it's calling. Okay, because here we are having a constant value, right? So now it's going to give the result for the Iron Man. Okay, related to the iron. Let's find some latest movie. Yep, so here we have the result for the Aquaman. So here we have Aquaman. Yes, it's here we don't have the image, I believe, so that's the reason it's coming as a blank. So our this component is working fine. Okay, let me just clean that. Okay, and yes, everything is good. Here we have to give one more thing here, because this component is going to inherit that the style sheet from the parent application. So here we have to give as a encapsulation as a view encapsulation dot none property. We have to set it here. Okay, so now this component is going to take inherit that style from the parent application. Okay, I can remove the CSS from here because I'm not going to use the CSS for this. Okay, so this component is almost ready. Let's go to the HTML part. See here, I would like to have this particular component needs to be take only 30% of the entire form. So here I will give as style width as a 30%, and here we should be having some gap in between image and the text box. So here I will give margin bottom of 4. Okay, hopefully this should be working. Let me run it once again. Everything looks good here. Okay, so here it's running now. Okay, so if you see here, this component is working as expected. Okay, and now friends, I want to use this component at multiple times. Okay, so what I'll do here, I'm just going to use as a div, and inside a div I'm going to use 2 more div. Okay, style. Okay, display flex, and flex direction. It was there, flex direction column. Okay, now I'll be putting this component this here and here. Okay, Control KF is used to format the content. Okay, now let's see how it look like. So still it's not having the value. Okay, so flex direction row. Now here I'm selecting spider, and here I'm selecting iron. Okay, so here the same component we are using, but we are running in a different context. Okay, and in the same way we can have this component multiple times with a different value. Okay, so here if I'm running as a spider, here I'm running as a iron, and here I'm running as aqua, and here I'm running as fighter, and here I'm running as let's some let's take some latest movie is let's have some latest movie is Pathan. So here we have Pathan. So if you see here, this component is working their own context, okay, and it's not interfering to the any other component. Okay, now the same component we are going to use as a web component. Okay, so now the next step is to migrate the component to the web component. Okay, so in order to migrate from component to web component, first of all we have to install a package as a Angular elements. So let's just install that package here. Npm install elements. So it's installing now. So there is a upstream dependency conflict here. Let me install this package with force command. There would be two hyphen force. So now it is installing. Yep, so Angular elements package is being installed now. If you want to see here in the Angular, here we have Angular elements. Okay, so now once it's being installed, we will import create custom element. Create custom element from Angular elements. Okay, now inside our app module we are going to call nghook as a ng do bootstrap. Okay, ng do bootstrap. Okay, and here we will check a condition for ngif custom elements is nothing, it's custom element registry, and we will get that element name. So we will try to get the element name as a web component, and then inside here let's have a create a element const element type of any equal to, now we will use this create custom element and we will use this search movie component, and here we have to provide the injector also. Okay, so we will provide the injector and we are going to provide the injector as here let me pass in the constructor as an injector for this particular component. So here I'll put as a constructor, and inside the constructor I'm going to pass as a injector service private and injector type of injector, and here I will pass this service this dot injector. Okay, so here this would be a small injector and this dot injector, that's correct. Yep, this is a config, so an object, so it should be in a curly bracket. Okay, and this is a constructor, so we have to give like this curly bracket. Now we will create this we will define this custom element. Okay, so here we are going to define this custom element. So custom element dot define, and inside this we will give this name for this component. So this is search movie, right? So here we will give as a search movie component name, search movie, and then we will pass this element. Okay, element. Okay, so here element. Okay, yeah, so now it's fine. So we are good here. Now we have to comment this app component. Okay, because now we are not going to use as a app component, and we are going to use this outside of this application as a separate web component. Okay, so here we are not required anymore as a app component. Okay, and here we are not required as a HTTP client module as well, because that client module is going to be injected from the parent application. Okay, and then yep, and we will give the name same name as which we are trying to find out. So here as a search movie. Okay, so everything looks good here. And here the bootstrap which we have as a passed as an app component, now we are going to pass it as a entry component. Okay, so entry component, and entry component will be as our search movie component. Okay, that would be as a entry component. And now we are not using this import anymore, and we are not using this HTTP client module anymore. Okay, so let's get together. Now most of the configuration has been completed in order to migrate from component to the web component. Okay, so now if you see here, let me repeat it once again. First of all, we have to install the Angular elements library, and then after that we have on ng bootstrap we have to find this search movie component. Okay, and then here we are injecting the current constructor to the component. Okay, and creating the by using the create custom element, and then here custom element we are defining as a search movie as a element. Okay, and we are not using HTTP client module anymore here, and app component, so we have to comment that app component and HTTP client module. And here we have to, the important thing is bootstrap, we have to remove that, and we have to add a entry component as a search movie component. Okay, now next thing we will see how can we merge the component web component in a single JavaScript file using Node.js. Okay, so now here at the component level, let me create a file as concatenate.js. Okay, and let me move this concatenate.js at the project level. Okay, yeah, move. So now we have concatenate.js file outside of the src folder. Now in order to just save my time, here I am just putting all the codes here in order to merge the component to the in a single file. Okay, so here I am using this Node.js, and here node.js we are using the fx extra and concat. Okay, so we are required to install these two packages here. So let me install extra. Okay, let me try using force. It's installing now. Now let me install concat as well. I'm just using force here. So concat is also being installed here now. Now what we are going to do, we are going to all these files which is going to be generated after build as a runtime, polyfill and main file. Okay, we are going to combine all those three files, and inside the element folder we are creating this component search movie.js, and which is nothing, this is the combination of all these three files. Okay, here we are not using the style, so I'm just commenting this line. Now let's build this application. Ng build. I'm just going to use configuration as production, and here I'll be using output as a hashing done. Okay, let's first build this application. So it's building now. So it's giving an error. Let me see. So if you get this error, it means like your version is not being installed properly for some of the package. So what we can do here, we can run a command fix hyphen hyphen force. Okay, so it's going to check what are the wrong version is being installed, and it's going to be corrected. So it may take some time. Meanwhile friends, if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you will be getting notification for all of my upcoming videos. npm audit is completed. Now we will build it once again. So if you see here, the build has been successfully done. Now if you come, once this build is completed, then you'll see inside the dist folder all these three files are being generated: main file and polyfill runtime. Okay, so if you see here, all these three files: runtime, polyfill and main.js. Okay, now we are going to combine these three files into a single file. Okay, so let me run our node file. Node concatenate.js. Okay, so it's saying error as no such file or directory. Okay, so what we will do here, elements directory is being created. Now let me try once again and see. Okay, ng web component. Oh, so here web component app, its dist file is as a web component app. Okay, so this is not ng web component, this is web component app. Okay, so let me just use these three things here as well, and here as well. Okay, let me try once again. Yep, so if you see here, all these three files is being combined here. Let me go inside the element. This is searchmovie.js. Okay, so now this component is being migrated from component to a web component in a single JavaScript file. Okay, so now let's see how we can use this single JavaScript file as a web component to any other application. Okay, so now let me create another application here. Let's go back to the directory. Now here we will create a new application, ng new, and application name here I will give as a web component. Okay, it's asking to like add an Angular router. No, as of now I'm not using Angular router here. And it's asking to add CSS. Let's go with the default CSS. Now it's creating the application. So now application has been created. Now let's move to the directory, cd web component. So now we are inside the web component. Now build this application. Open a new, let me open a new Visual Studio Code here. Just take it as a separate file, open folder, and let's go directly there. Okay, so it's building now. Let's stop this building from here, and now we will build. This is the application where we are going to use our web component. Let's open the terminal. Let's start build this application first time. So again we have to run the audit fix npm audit fix hyphen force here as well. Yep, so it's done. Let me build it once again. So it's built successfully. Now we are going to use the web component here inside this application. Okay, so once we are going to use the web component inside any application, so we have to do some configuration. Let's inside the asset folder, let's copy that JS file from here. Copy this file and we will paste it inside the asset folder. Okay, Now we have to use this file. Okay, so in order to use this file, we will go to the angular.json file, and here inside the script we are going to give the path for this. Okay, so here we will provide the path for that file. So here we will give a src and then asset, and then we will give the file name search movie. Okay, dot js. Now this file is going to be included to our application. Okay, now the next step is, if we are using any custom component, then our go to the app. In the app module you have to define your custom schema as well here. Okay, so let's define our custom schemas, and here we have to define custom elements schema. Okay, so this custom element schema, and this custom element schema is coming from Angular core library. Okay, now the next step is use our web component to the application. Okay, so now here a lot of things are there. Let me remove it completely. Now here I'm putting as using standalone web component. Okay, search movie web component. So now we are going to use the web component here. So we have already written the code in our previous project here in app component.html. So I'm going to use this completely from here. As of now, I'm just going to use only one to just check if everything is working fine. And here we are using as a search movie, not the app search. Okay, and now we have to provide the config as well. So here we can take the config, this whole config I'm going to take copy and use this inside your app component class, and we have to use this class. So I'm just going to use this completely from param and all the imports. Okay, so now if you see here we have app component and everything. Here we have given the params already in the same way we have given in the previous project, right? So here we are passing HTTP client, okay, to the component config. Okay, now and see the HTML file. Now error has been gone from here, and now we will see our app module. So here, okay, now let me run this application and see if it's working. ng build. I'm expecting that it should not be working because here we have not given HTTP module, HTTP client module here. So it's building now. So now this have been built. Now let's run this. Let me just copy this. Yep, so this is expected. This we have not given HTTP client module there, so we will go to the app module, and here we will add HTTP client module. HTTP client module import, and we are importing this HTTP client module, as well as we are exporting this HTTP client module to the in your web component, right? So here we will export as well. Export, and we will give as HTTP client module. Okay. Okay. Now let's see. So still it's not running. Let me go to the network. Console. It means our web control is not being called. Okay. So let me see once again what is the problem there. And okay, let me see on Angular JSON file. Angular JSON, this assets here. Oh, so here it should be assets. Okay, search movie.js, it should be inside the assets folder. Okay, that's why it was not calling the JS file. Okay, let me save it. So in case of any changes we are doing on Angular JSON file, then we have to run once again. Let me serve once again. It should be running now. Okay, let me see. Still it's not, JavaScript is not being called. Okay, let's see what is the other issues we have. So this source script file is there. Oh, okay, so basically we have given this script file inside the test tag. Okay, basically we have to give this inside our architect level. Okay, so here. Okay, now let's save it and serve once again. So this JavaScript file needs to be added inside the script tag of build. Okay, architect build, but we have added inside that test. Okay, as of now we are not using this test script, so it's not going to work anymore. We can remove this as well. Let's see, is it running or not? No. Yep, it's running now. Okay, great. Let me post a spider. Yep, we are getting the detail here. So now if you see, this is the single JavaScript file we are using in asset. This search movie.js single JavaScript file is that we are using on a separate application. Okay, so this is our web component, and this web component is totally separated from this application. Okay, and this movie.search movie component can be used to any other applications. Okay, so just we have to add this JavaScript file, and this is completely standalone. Okay, now if you see here, let me just use a couple of more here. Okay, and now let me run it once again. Okay, so here we will search for spider, here we'll search for fighter, and now here we can search for iron. Okay, yeah, so if you see that it's working fine and it's not interacting with any other components, they're running their own HTTP context. Now if you see that the design is doesn't looks good, so I'm just going to use Bootstrap. So here we have CSS Bootstrap, and let me use the latest one. So if you come here with the documentation, here we have CDN link for this. So I'm just going to use this CDN link, and okay, so here I'll use in index.html. I'll use this link over here. Okay, now I'll save it. Now let's see once again, refresh this. So CSS is not applied it here. Let me see why. So CSS is not applied. Proper min.js. Okay, so here we have just added the JavaScript file for Bootstrap. We have to add for the CSS file as well. Okay, so this is for JavaScript and this is for CSS. Okay, so we will use this CSS file as well. Okay, as of now we are not going to use any feature for the like Bootstrap JavaScript, so I can just comment it. Okay, and now we are using this Bootstrap min.css file. Okay, so now it looks far better. Let me search spider and fighter and Aquaman. Okay, Aquaman, Aquaman, right? Yep, so it's good. So this is working fine as expected. And so friends, this is the same web component that we are using 3 times on a page, and these 3 components are running in their own context. It's not interfering with any other component as well. So you can see here each and every components are having their own search functionality, and they are not overlapping the result from the other components. Okay, so friends, so far we have learned about how to create a component, and then we have migrated that component to the web component, and finally we use that web component in a different application. Okay, so your requirement could be different as per your project, but the way would be the same, creating a component and web component and using it. Okay, so friends, if you have any issues or any problem, you can comment me, and definitely I'll try to reply for all your issues. And you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And if you have not subscribed my channel so far, please subscribe it, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you can get the notification of all of my upcoming videos. Thanks for today and have a good day. Bye bye.